The sky was gray and cold. Snow fell slowly over the broken streets. Old buildings stood like skeletons, covered in ice and silence. The world was no longer alive. It was quiet, ruined, and waiting for something in the middle of the dead city. There was a small market. People gathered around small fires, selling whatever they had: rotten vegetables, dirty water, and rusty metal. Everyone looked tired, hungry, and angry. Trust was gone from this world. Then, two figures entered the market. They walked slowly, carefully, as if every step was heavy. Their skin was blue and glowing softly. Their eyes were large and shining like glass. Their clothes were torn, dirty, and barely covered them. People stopped talking. They stared at the two alien girls, some with fear, some with hate. Aliens were not welcome here, not after the war. The older alien girl had long silver hair tied in a braid. Her face was calm, but sad. She held the younger girl's hand. The younger one was smaller, shaking from the cold. Her short white hair was wet with snow. They were clearly starving. They walked up to a food stall. The man behind the stall looked at them, surprised but not scared. He wore a long dark coat, torn gloves, and a gun on his belt. He was not a kind man, but not cruel either. He had seen too much to feel anything. The older girl looked at the boiling soup. Steam rose into the air, warming her face for a moment. Her stomach growled loudly. The man crossed his arms. "What do you want?" he asked, his voice rough. The girl looked at the pot, then at him. "We need food," she said softly. Her English was broken, but clear. "We have nothing," she added. The man looked around. People were watching, whispering. Someone laughed. Someone spat on the ground. The man raised an eyebrow. "No trade, no food," he said coldly. "This is not a charity." The girl looked down. Her hands shook as she pulled the younger girl close. The child was too weak to stand. She sat on the cold ground, her body curling up like a leaf. The older one took a deep breath. Then she said something no one expected. She looked up into the man's eyes and whispered, "We can offer ourselves." The market went silent. Even the wind seemed to stop. The man blinked, not sure what he heard. She looked away, ashamed. "We don't want trouble," she said. "But we are hungry. She is sick. I will do anything," the man said. Nothing. He looked at the girl for a long moment. There was pain in her voice, not fear. She had already lost everything. Behind him, the soup boiled, the smell filling the air. The younger alien looked at it with wide eyes. She was too young to understand what her sister was offering. Too young to carry the weight of this cruel world. A small human girl walked up. Quietly, she had a piece of dry bread in her hands. She looked at the aliens, then at the man. She gave the bread to the younger alien and ran away. The older alien looked shocked, then smiled faintly. The younger one held the bread tightly. She did not eat it right away. She just stared at it, as if it was gold. The man finally spoke. "Stay under the tent," he said. "I don't have much, but maybe we can work something out." The older alien nodded quickly. "Thank you," she said, her voice shaking. She helped her sister stand and guided her under the canvas. They sat beside the fire, holding each other. Steam from the soup touched their faces like a warm hand. The people in the market kept watching. Some looked angry, others confused. No one knew who these girls were. No one knew what would happen next, but something had changed. In a dead world, something had moved. A spark, small and weak, had appeared in the cold, and it had blue skin, silver hair, and starving eyes. The fire crackled gently under the tent. The smoke rose slowly, mixing with the falling snow. The two alien girls sat close to each other, their bodies shaking. They had not eaten properly in days, maybe weeks. The younger one, still holding the dry bread, took small bites. She chewed slowly, carefully, like she was afraid it might vanish. Her glowing blue eyes watched everything around her. She did not trust anyone, not even the fire. The older girl kept her eyes on the man, the one who had offered them shelter. He stood quietly, pouring soup into metal cups. His hands were rough, scarred, and steady. He handed her a cup without speaking. She took it with both hands, bowed slightly, and whispered, "Thank you." The man nodded, but said nothing. He was still watching her, studying her face. Not with hate, not with kindness, with curiosity, like she was a puzzle around them. The market was getting colder. People packed up their stalls, fires were dying. But some eyes still watched the tent. Not everyone liked the idea of aliens being fed. The man finally spoke. "You're not the first aliens I've seen," he said, "but you're the first to beg for food." The older girl looked up. "We don't beg," she said softly. "We survive." The man smiled a little. He liked her answer. Strong, honest, no pride, no shame, only survival. "What's your name?" He asked. "I'm Allah," she said, pointing to herself. She then touched her sister's shoulder. "She's Rina." The man nodded. "People call me Keller," he replied. "Used to be a soldier, long ago." Isla's eyes narrowed. "Soldier." She repeated quietly. The word brought memories. Fire, death, loss. Keller saw her face change and added quickly, "Not all soldiers wanted war." A short silence passed between them. Only the fire spoke, crackling softly. Then Keller pulled something from his coat. A small device covered in dust. Its lights were dead. Its surface cracked. Alien tech, he placed it on the ground in front of Ayla. "You know what this is?" he asked. Ayla stared at it, her eyes widening. She reached out, touched it gently. Her fingers moved over the buttons like a memory. "Yes," she said. "It's a beacon." Keller leaned forward. "I found it after a crash, years ago." He said, "It never worked, but I kept it." He looked her in the eyes and said, "If you fix this, maybe I can give you more than soup." Ayla was quiet for a moment. She glanced at Rina, who had fallen asleep, her small body wrapped in an old blanket. Then she looked back at the beacon. "If I fix it," she asked, "what will you do with it?" Keller didn't answer right away. "I want to know what's left out there," he said finally. "I want to hear something, anything, besides this silence." Ayla nodded slowly. She understood that feeling. Loneliness was louder than any war. "All right," she said. "I'll try." She took the device in her lap. Her fingers began to work, slowly and carefully. She whispered words in her language, soft and gentle, like a forgotten song. Keller watched, fascinated. He had never seen something so strange and peaceful. A blue-skinned girl fixing a lost machine. In a world that had stopped caring, minutes passed. Then the beacon made a sound. A soft hum, then a blink of light. Ayla's eyes lit up. "It's working," she whispered. She looked at Keller. "It's sending a signal." Keller stood up. Quickly. He stepped outside the tent and looked at the sky. Nothing changed, but something was out there now. Listening, back inside, Ayla held the beacon tightly. She wasn't sure who would answer, but part of her hoped it was someone kind. Someone who remembered mercy. Outside the tent, a figure in the dark slowly walked away. He had watched the whole thing. Now he moved quickly, heading toward the ruins. To tell others something was coming, and not everyone wanted the aliens to survive. The wind outside howled like a hungry beast. Snow flew sideways, scratching the broken windows of old buildings. The sky was still gray, but darker now. Night was coming, and with it, danger inside the tent. The fire had become smaller. The warmth faded slowly, just like trust in this world. Allah sat close to the beacon, staring at its blinking light. It was working, but it was quiet now. Rinna was sleeping, wrapped in old blankets. Her breath slow and weak. Ayla looked at her little sister. Then at Keller, "You said you want to hear something," she said. "But what do you really want?" Keller crouched beside the fire, his eyes cold but honest. "I want truth," he replied. "I've heard lies from humans, screams from aliens, and silence from the sky. I want to know if there's still hope." Ayla nodded slowly. She believed him, but not fully. No one could be trusted easily. "Not after everything they had lost. I fixed the beacon," she said. "I kept my side of the deal." Keller reached into his coat and pulled out a small tin. He handed it to her. Inside were dried fruits and clean water. Real food, real water, not stolen, not poisoned. Ayla's hands trembled as she took it. She woke Rinna gently, fed her slowly. The little one smiled for the first time in days. It was small, but it warmed the tent more than fire ever could. Keller watched silently. He did not smile, but his face softened. He saw something in the sisters he hadn't seen in years. Innocence. Even now, even here. Ayla looked up again. "What if someone dangerous hears the beacon?" She asked, "What if they come?" Keller leaned back, resting against a crate. "They'll come," he said. "I know they will. But danger is already here." He pointed toward the market. "There are people out there who hate your kind," he said. "They only need one reason to burn this whole place down." Ayla's heart pounded. Her hands tightened around Rinna. "Then why help us?" she asked. "You owe us nothing." Keller stared at the fire, lost in its glow, because once. He said slowly, "I had a daughter." Ayla stayed quiet. Keller continued. "She was small. Like Rinna, curious, kind. She died in the war." A long silence filled the tent. Only the crackle of fire remained. "I blamed your kind," Keller said. "I hated you all. But hate didn't bring her back. It only made me empty." Ayla's eyes softened. She understood loss, deep, painful, endless. Suddenly, the beacon blinked twice. Then again, faster this time, a sharp sound came from it. A signal received. Keller and Ayla both leaned in. A pattern of lights danced across the surface. It wasn't human code, but Ayla recognized it. "It's a reply," she whispered. "They heard us." Keller's jaw tightened. "What does it say?" Ayla hesitated. Her voice dropped lower, almost a whisper. "It says, 'We are coming.'" The tent went cold, not from the wind, but from the meaning behind those words. "Who are they?" Keller asked. Ayla shook her head. "I don't know." Behind the tent, footsteps crunched in the snow. Someone was listening. Someone who wasn't welcome. The beacon had done more than send hope. It had invited attention. Keller stood up fast. Pulling a small scanner from his pocket, a red dot blinked on its surface. Someone nearby. Armed, moving. "We're not alone," he said quickly. He looked at Ayla. "We made a deal." He said, "You helped me. Now, I help you." Ayla's eyes locked onto his. "Help us how?" Keller looked toward the back flap of the tent. "To survive what's coming," he said. "We'll need more than food. We'll need trust." Ayla nodded once, slowly. She reached for her sister and held her close. Outside, the snow kept falling, but inside the tent, something new had formed. Not just a deal, but the beginning of something rare, something almost forgotten. Hope. The beacon blinked like a heartbeat in the dark. Faint light, steady rhythm, quiet message, but in a broken world, even small signals carry great weight. Keller sat outside the tent now, holding a weapon across his lap. The snow had stopped, but the silence was worse. It felt like the whole city was holding its breath. Inside, Ayla wrapped Rinna in a thicker blanket. The little one had fallen back asleep. Her cheeks had color again, but her body was still weak. Ayla stared at the signal, still flashing. She understood the code, but not the sender. The language was old, ancient even to her people, only used in emergency distress calls. Or war. Keller stepped inside quietly, brushing snow from his coat. "They're close," he said. "I saw movement near the old library ruins, humans." Allah asked. "Maybe," Keller replied. "Or something worse." She looked at him carefully. "You've seen worse?" He nodded slowly. "After the war, I joined recovery teams. We searched crash sites. We saw things that never made it to the news, ships that didn't belong to you or us." Ayla's eyes widened slightly. "You mean? Another species?" Keller hesitated. "I don't know what they were," he said, "but they never answered calls. They never took prisoners." The beacon blinked faster now. Ayla stood and placed her hand on the device. A projection flickered above it. Weak, broken, but clear enough, a shape. A massive black ship floating above clouds. Its body long like a shadow. Its lights cold and colorless. Keller stared at it. "That's not yours," he said. Allah shook her head. "No," she replied, "and it's not friendly." The message ended suddenly. The beacon powered down. No more light, no more signal, just silence. Allah whispered. It was a warning. Keller didn't speak. He just picked up his rifle and checked the chamber. He had seen war, but this felt different. It felt like a door had opened, and something terrible had stepped through. Suddenly, a loud crash echoed from the street. Keller rushed outside. Ayla followed. A plume of smoke rose from behind a building. A small scout pod, alien in design, had fallen from the sky. They ran toward it, careful and quiet. The pod was cracked open. Smoke pouring out inside. Not a body, but something else. A case, locked in alien steel. Pulsing with blue light, Ayla stepped forward. "It's a containment core," she said. "Medical? Maybe." Keller knelt beside it. "It's marked with your language," he noted, "but part of it's rewritten." Ella leaned in. The second half of the markings were changed, damaged, and overwritten by a different system, one she had never seen. Something old and dangerous. Before they could speak, a voice rang out. "Step away." They turned sharply. A man stood nearby, holding a shotgun behind him. Two more with blades. Locals, scavengers, they had followed the light, and they wanted the case. Keller raised his hands. "Easy," he said. "We found it first." The leader smirked. "Then you'll die first." He stepped forward, but stopped suddenly. The case made a loud sound, a high-pitched tone like a scream. Then it clicked open, slowly. Inside was not medicine, but something else. A small, black orb, covered in strange carvings. It floated out of the case and hovered in the air. Then, without warning, it pulsed once. All of them were knocked to the ground by a shockwave of sound. Keller's ears rang. Ayla held Rinna tighter, who had just arrived behind her. When the ringing stopped, the orb was gone, vanished into the sky like smoke, and with it, so was the beacon's light. No more connection, no more warning. Only one thing remained. A new mark burned into the metal of the case, a symbol neither Keller nor Allah could read. But it looked like an eye, open, watching. Keller stood slowly. "That wasn't a message," he whispered. "It was a test." Ayla didn't answer. She just looked at the sky, and for the first time, she felt something worse than hunger. A cold truth. Someone or something was coming, and it was already watching. The next morning, the sky was still gray, but the silence was different. It was heavy. Like something hidden in the clouds was watching. In the marketplace, people moved slowly. Some packed their things. Others whispered in corners. Everyone had seen the flash of light. Everyone had heard the sound from the fallen pod. And they were afraid. Keller walked back through the market with Ayla and Rinna beside him. They passed silent eyes and turned backs. What once was only distrust had become something worse. Hate. Near Keller's stall, A group had gathered, 5 men, 1 woman, armed and angry. One of them stepped forward. His name was Rook, a former scavenger captain, strong, loud, and dangerous. "We warned you," Rook shouted. "You feed aliens. You bring their trouble to our home." Keller stepped in front of Ayla. "She's just a girl." "And that one's a child," he said. "They didn't bring anything? Then what was that noise last night?" Rook asked. "What was that light?" "You think we didn't see the sky burn?" Ayla stayed silent. Rinna hid behind her sister, holding her hand tightly. Keller stood tall. "We don't know what that was," he said, "but fighting each other won't fix it." Rook raised his weapon slightly. "Maybe it won't," he said. "But it'll make sure the problem doesn't grow." The crowd behind him murmured. Some nodded, others looked away. Fear was spreading like fire. Then a new voice spoke. It was Mara, the young girl who had once given Rinna bread. She stood between the crowd and Keller's stall. "They were starving," she said. "They didn't hurt anyone." Rook stared at her, surprised. "This isn't your fight, girl," he growled. "But it is," Mara replied, her voice shaking but firm. "Because if you start hurting the innocent, you become what you fear." A brief silence followed. Then someone threw a rock. It hit Keller in the shoulder. Another one flew past Ayla's head. He grabbed Ayla and pulled her behind the stall. Wood cracked, glass broke, people shouted. The market had turned into a riot. Smoke rose, fires began. Rinna cried, covering her ears. Keller fired his weapon into the air. The blast echoed through the buildings. "Enough," he shouted. "This ends now." But it didn't. From the far edge of the market, a large machine rolled in. It was half covered in snow, old but still moving, a forgotten battle drone powered by stolen fuel. Rook's men had found it in the ruins. Now they were using it to end what they had started. The drone's gun turned slowly. Aiming toward the tent, Keller cursed, pulling Ayla and Rinna into cover. "We have to move," he said. Ayla looked around. "No way out," she said, "unless—" She paused, looking at the broken beacon. "We use the ship. The ship's dead," Keller replied. "Not if we charge it," Ayla said. "Not if we risk everything." Keller nodded once. He turned to Mara, who was hiding nearby. "Get anyone who wants to live to the old crash site," he said. Now, Mara ran, shouting to others. Some followed her, some stayed frozen, but the ground was already shaking. Something was waking up. Ayla held Rinna close as Keller led them through a back alley. Behind them, the drone fired. Explosions tore through the street. The market was gone, replaced by fire and panic at the crash site. The alien ship lay half buried in ice. Its surface cracked, engines cold, but inside. A heartbeat waited. Ayla placed the beacon's core into the ship's panel. The walls lit up softly at first, then brighter. Alien letters floated in the air, welcoming her back. The ship was waking, and with it, so was the power to change everything. Keller looked outside. Rook and his men were coming. He turned to Ayla. "You said we could charge it," he said. "Can you fly it?" Ayla looked at him. "I can try," she replied. "But it's not just a ship anymore." "What is it?" Keller asked. She placed her hand on the glowing panel. "It's a memory," she whispered, "and a weapon." As the ship roared to life, the snow around it began to melt. The storm above broke apart, revealing a sky full of stars, and in the distance, one star blinked twice. Not a star, a signal. Something had answered. Asterisk, the alien ship was alive again. Its engines pulsed like a sleeping heart, suddenly awakened. Blue light flowed through the walls, humming softly, but it was not flying yet. Ayla stood at the controls, her hands shaking slightly. She had never flown a ship this old, this powerful, this broken. Rinna sat in a corner, holding a stuffed cloth doll someone had given her. The ship's warmth had brought color back to her face, but her eyes still looked tired. Keller stood by the entrance ramp, weapon ready. He watched the outside through a cracked monitor. Snow fell harder again, hiding movement, but he knew they were coming. Rook, his men, and maybe more. They had tasted fear. And now they wanted control. They would burn. Everything to stop change, even children, even hope. Alla turned to Keller. "I can get this ship off the ground," she said. "But once we leave, we can't come back." Keller didn't answer at first. He stared at the cold sky through the screen, then finally said, "Maybe there's nothing worth coming back to." Ayla looked down. "Some people." "Followed Mara," she said. "They're outside now, hiding behind broken walls, waiting." Keller's jaw tightened. Waiting for what? "For someone to make a choice," she said. Just then, the ship beeped. A new signal came through the beacon, a voice broken and distorted. "Evac, confirmed. Hostile zone. Last chance to extract." Ayla turned pale. "I know that voice," she whispered. "It's from my planet." Keller leaned closer. "What does it mean?" "It means our rescue is coming," Ayla said. "But only for us." She looked at Rinna, then at Keller. "They won't take humans." Keller stared at her. Quiet, calm, unreadable. "So you have a way out," he said, "and we stay here." And Ayla felt something break inside her. "No," she said. "I won't leave you." "You should," he said firmly. "You're not like us. You still believe, outside." The ground shook again. The drone returned, louder. Faster, angrier, the refugees behind the wall screamed. One of Rook's men had fired a warning shot. Smoke began rising again. The storm hid the flames. But the fire was already spreading. Inside the ship, Rinna stood up. Her little voice cut through the noise. "Why are we still here?" She asked, "Why don't we fly?" Ayla knelt down, took her sister's hands. "Because flying means leaving them," she said. "And I don't want to leave good people behind." Keller turned back to the door. "They won't all survive," he said. "You know that, right?" "I know," Ayla replied. "But maybe some will." Suddenly, a figure appeared at the ramp. It was Mara. Her clothes burned, her face covered in ash. "They're burning the food stores," she cried. "They're forcing people out. You have to do something." Keller turned to Ayla. "I've seen war from both sides," he said. "I never thought I'd fight again, but if we hold the entrance, you fly them out." Ayla's voice cracked. "A cot, leave you to die." He looked at her with tired eyes. "But if you stay, everyone dies." For a moment, neither spoke. Then Ayla did something unexpected. She reached for the ship's control panel and handed Keller a small glowing device. "What's this?" he asked. "A genetic key." She said, "It links to the ship. Now it will fly for you too." Keller stared at it. "Why?" "Because you made a choice," she said, "to protect the weak, not rule them." Outside, the wind howled. Louder Rook's men began firing. One of the hiding civilians fell. Screams filled the air again. Keller moved toward the ramp. "Rifle in hand, get them in," he said. "Anyone who wants to live." Mara ran back into the snow, guiding people toward the ship, mothers, children, old men running for safety. Rook shouted orders. But the tide was turning, as people boarded. The ship began to lift slightly. Its engines glowed brighter. Alla took the controls, her fingers fast and sure. Tears ran down her face, but her hands were steady. She looked at Keller one last time. He was outside, holding the line, covering the innocent with fire and fury. "I'll come back," she whispered. "I promise." The ship lifted into the storm. Snow turned to steam beneath it. The sky opened for just a second, and the ship vanished through the clouds. Below, in the burning snow, Keller smiled once, then turned toward the fire. The ship soared through thick clouds, its engines burned hot, but steady, inside. Silence filled the cabin. Not fear, not panic, just silence. Ayla sat at the pilot's chair, her hands resting still. Her face was calm now, but her eyes were lost. In memory, behind her, Rinna leaned against the wall, sleeping with a soft blanket over her. The children, the old, the weak, all were safe, but not all had made it. Keller had stayed behind. By choice, by honor. Ayla's last memory of him was his silhouette in the smoke. Rifle in hand, fire in his heart, standing between hope and death. Now the ship flew north, toward the signal that had called to them not to escape the past, but to find something worth building again. Suddenly, the ship beeped. A message flashed on the screen. Docking path confirmed. Landing zone clear. Ayla leaned forward. A small island appeared ahead, floating on still ocean water. It was not on any human map. It's covered in green and metal ruins. It had once been an alien outpost, long abandoned. Now it would become something else. Home. The ship landed gently, its legs touching solid ground for the first time in years. The people inside looked out through the windows, eyes wide, filled with wonder. The sky was blue here. The snow had not reached this place. Ayla opened the ramp. The first to walk out was Mara. Her face lit up in the warm sun. Rinna followed, holding her sister's hand. They walked into the light together. Soon, others joined them. They didn't cheer, they didn't cry. They simply stood in silence. Feeling life again, hours passed. They began setting up small tents from the ship's storage. Cooked warm food, boiled clean water. Someone started a small fire using dry wood for the first time in a long time. There was no screaming, no guns, just the smell of soup. And the soft sound of children laughing. Ayla sat near the fire, holding a cup. Rinna brought her a bowl of food. "This is for you," she said with a smile. "You haven't eaten, Ayla." Took the bowl slowly, steam rose into the air. The scent was simple, but it was the most beautiful smell in the world. Not because of the taste, but because it was shared. She looked around at these people. Human and alien, alive, together, not enemies, not monsters, just survivors. Then she raised the bowl to her lips, her first true meal in peace, her last meal. Of the old world and the first of a new one, somewhere in the sky, the stars blinked, signals crossed. Warnings sent. Others would come, maybe soon. More danger, more choices. But today was not for fear. Today was for memory. Ayla closed her eyes and whispered softly, "For Keller," and the fire kept burning. Not to destroy, but to keep them warm. A simple thing, a human thing. The beginning of everything, the end.